upon thinking about going, that perhaps we'd see the desecration of a grave or two, bad enough as it is. I hadn't really expected the mass, really destruction of many of these graves that are just fresh, that are just new, that obviously are being done as we speak. It isn't something that was done 100 years ago or 100 days ago. It's something that's being done every single day. And we went down and we looked and we saw, and then as Malcolm mentioned before, when we finally went outside, somebody threw a rock. And it's really something because it had been explained to us that people that go to pray, to visit the grave sites, are subjected to rock throwing. Now, I hardly expected to be part of that myself. And so, Congressman Nadler and I will certainly go back to the United States, to Washington, and tell all our colleagues what we saw. You know, every faith, I believe, has a right to honor its dead. As Jews, we honor the dead, and we're also very concerned about the living. And so it would be bad enough to have a desecration of any synagogue. You know, when it happens in New York or California, any place around the world, it's bad enough. But to happen right here in Yerushalayim, in the most holiest of Jewish cemeteries, is simply not acceptable. And I just want to assure you that I will not rest until this is taken care of. I won't stop until the perpetrators are caught and prosecuted. I won't stop until there's enough security there so that graves can no longer be desecrated. That people know that when their loved ones are buried there, they're to be honored, not have their graves desecrated. And particularly in Jerusalem, in the holiest site, holiest grave site, this is not something that will stand. So I really came here to thank all of you, because it's so important that we do this together. It's so important that we lend our voices to your voices. It's so important that we stand up for what's right. Because just the way I stand up for the state of Israel and for support of the Jewish state, let's remember, this is the Jewish homeland, and we are in the state of the Jewish people. I don't care who recognizes it or who doesn't recognize it. We know what we are. And we will respect the Jewish state, and we will respect those who have departed, and we will ensure, by working together, that these graves are desecrated no more.
There are two things being done here. One is a desecration of graves. Graves in the holiest and most ancient Jewish cemetery. Graves of some of the greatest people who've ever lived. Some of the greatest Kedoshim who've ever lived. And desecration of graves is unforgivable. It tells us that not only do we want to kill the living, but we want to harry them into death. It is a crime against humanity. It must be prevented, but it also must be dealt with as what it is, a crime against humanity. And I'm glad that the government of Israel is finally beginning to take effective steps to prevent it. Security councils, police station, security cameras rather, God forbid the security council, security cameras, police stations, police presence. These are steps that should greatly alleviate the problem. But the second thing is, it's not just desecration of grave sites, as horrible as that is. It is an attempt, as Malcolm said, to deny history. To deny history for a very political goal, namely to destroy the Jewish claim to Eretz Israel. To propagate the great lie that this is not a Jewish area, that this is not the original Jewish homeland, that we did not originate here, and that this land is not suffused with Jewish history, Jewish memory, and Jewish blood. And you see this in so many different things. The renaming by UNESCO of Kever Rachel as a mosque, not a Jewish holy site, not a place of Jewish remembrance and Kedusha. You see it in what I have always considered a great sin, namely permitting the Waqf to desecrate the Beit HaMikdash, to destroy the remains of the Beit HaMikdash, and to put many of the holy objects in a garbage dump, which people then go through to locate what they can, as fragments, rather than perhaps as wholes. The act of grave desecration, the act of destruction of a temple is an act of not only desecration, literally, but it's an act of great hatred. The Torah tells us, Pokei Avon Avot al Banim al Shilashim al Ribeim L'Sanai. Visit the sins of the fathers and the sons unto the third and fourth generation to those that hate me. Well, sonnet, hatred. What better definition or illustration of hatred than grave desecration? And as Malcolm said, it should go the other way around. Not just visiting the sons of the fathers, the sins of the fathers and the children, but visiting the sins of the children and the fathers and the mothers who don't prevent those sins, who teach the hatred that motivates the grave desecration. And if we want to be really effective, if we want to really make this outside the pale, then parents ought to be held accountable for what their teenage children do. So we will go back to Washington and continue to raise this question and this consciousness to make sure that there's as much support as possible coming from the United States for the Israeli government and the Israeli people to stop this, to put an end to this once and for all, to stop this great Chilul Hashem, this great desecration, this great insult to the Jewish people, this great horror, and this great crime against humanity. We will prevail on this. Thank you for all your pioneering work.